أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. This is the 7th episode of our book Aqeedatul Wasitiya, written by Abulislam Ahmad bin Abdul Khalim bin Taymiyyah. May Allah the Almighty have mercy on him. In this episode number 7, we will continue from where we stopped in the episode number 6, at the point where Malan says that wahum wastun fi babi af'alillahi bayna al-qadariyya wal-jabariyya, that the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, al-Firqatun Najah, the successful people or party, are the intermediates between the Qadariyya and the Jabariyya. The Qadariyas are denying the predestination in totality, but the Jabariyas are extreme in terms of Qadara or predestination, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one forcing people to do what they are doing. Both of them, as we said in the last part of episode number 6, both of the Aqidas are erring, are not good, they are deviant people. The Ahl Sunnah and the Firqatun Najah stay in the middle of these two people. So, wafi babi wa'idillahi, and Ahl Sunnah also stay in the intermediate class in terms of wa'idullah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns, or in the warnings of Allah. There are actions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attach a lot of wa'id, warning, serious warning, and to them. So Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, correct Muslims, and stay in the intermediates, bain al-murjiyah wal wa'idiyah, between the murjiyah and the wa'idiyah. Murjiyas are too loose in terms of the wa'id, warnings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the al-wa'idiyah are too extreme in terms of the warnings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where Allah the Almighty warns people that any person who does this will be punished, or he has cursed the person, or the person will face a painful disgrace in the hereafter, and so on and so forth. So the Murjiyas do not even take it serious, because all they believe is that whatever someone does, as long as he has Iman in him, that person has no problem. That is why the Aqidah is not good at all. In the Aqidah of the Murji'ah, the Iman of Sayyidina Abu Bakr and your own Iman today is the same. Even your Iman today and that of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is the same, because all of them are Iman. You can see even from this point, you know that this is not a Muslim Islam at all. So Al-Sunnahs are not saying like this. And al-Wa'idiyya are the extreme people that are always following the warnings, the wa'id, the serious warnings. Anytime you see them speaking, is this one will go to the hellfire, this one is caused by Allah, that one is kaza, that one is a kafir, that one is a fasik, that one is a mubtadi, kaza. You will never hear them saying that any person who does this will go to the paradise, or will see Allah's mercy, or Allah will admit so and so people in the paradise, kaza kaza. So Ahlus Sunnahs are not too extreme and they are not too low, as in the case of Murjiyah and Wa'idiyah. He said al-Wa'idiyya min al-Qadariyya, among the Qadariyas wa gairihim, and people that are like them. Wafi babil iman, in terms of iman or deen and the religion, hot fasting to iman and the religion of Islam, Ahlus Sunnah also stay in the intermediate class, bain al-Kharuriyya, between the Kharuriyya. Kharuriyya is another name for Khawarij. Khawarij that are saying that any person who commits a sin and the person has become a kafir, any type of sin, once is committed it, the person is not more a Muslim to them. and that is why they qualify themselves as people who are sinless. They don't commit any sin at all. So Haruriya is the first place where they camped during the Khalifa of Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib, and that is why they are called Haruri or Haruriya, as is written here. So Ahlus Sunnahs are not in this part. Well, Mu'tazila, and they are not also in part of the Mu'tazilas that are saying that a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ shouldn't be accepted. All they are working with is just the Quran. So Ahlus Sunnah are not saying like that too. You can see that they work with Quran and they work with the authentic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Wa bain al-Murjiya wal Jamiyya, this al-Firqatun Najiyah also stay between al-Murjiya, as we mentioned earlier, and Jamiyah and the Jamiyah. Murjiyas are too loose, and the Jamiyas are arguing with the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah doesn't have all the sifat we have mentioned. وَفِي أَصْحَابِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ, and in terms of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, this Al-Firqatun Najiyah, which the book is discussing, stay between Al-Rafida, the Shia, that are hating the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and Khawarij, and the Khawarij that say that all of them are kafir or kuffar, except those who are with them in anywhere they camp themselves. Up to today, that is how they do. Once they have a place and they camp themselves somewhere outside the town, any person who is not there with them is not a Muslim. So Ahlus Sunnah is not are not part of these people, and they are not part of the Khawarij, Rawafid or Rafida, that are saying that all the kuffar, all the Sahabas of the Prophet ﷺ are kuffar, except for, according to them, they said, except Bilal ibn Rabah, Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, Salman al-Farisi, and al-Miqdad ibn al-Aswad. They are the only Muslims among the companions. This is a serious problem with the Shia. So Ahlus Sunnahs are not there. They believe that all the companions of the Prophet ﷺ were Muslims, and all of them will be going to the paradise, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran in numerous portions. And they are not Khawarij. The Ahlus Sunnahs are not Khawarij, because they are not saying that any person who committed a sin is not more a Muslim. Now Malon continues by saying that وَقَدْ دَخَلَ فِي مَا ذَكَرْنَاهُ مِنَ الْإِيمَانِ بِاللَّهِ. It said that it has also entered from what we have mentioned of believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-imanu bima akhbar Allahu bi fi kitabih. You should also believe that with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala narrated for us in his book, wa tawatara an Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and the ahadith are numerous from the Prophet sallallahu about it. Wa ajma' alayhi salaful ummah, and the salaful ummah, the companions, the tabi'un and the tabi'in, and also have consensus about it. Min annahu subhanahu, that Allah the Almighty, fawqa samawati, he is on top of the seventh heaven, ala arshihi, on his arsh, and aliyun ala khalqihi, he is above all his creatures, wa huwa subhanahu ma'hum, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with them, aynama kanu, wherever they are. Ya'lamu ma hum amilun, he knows anything or everything that they are doing. Kama jama bayna zalika fi qawli, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala combined between his staying on arsh and his knowledge is at everywhere, in the following verse, where it says, huwa alladhi khalaqa as-samawati wal arda, Allah is the one who created the heaven and earth, fi sittati ayyamin, in 6 days, summa stawa ala al-arshi, and then he stayed in the arsh, on the top of the arsh. Ya'lamu ma yaliju, Allah is staying there on top of the arsh, but ya'lamu ma yaliju, he knows ma yaliju fil ardi, what is going inside the earth, wa ma yakhruju, and what is coming minha, from the earth, wa ma yanzilu minas sama, and what is revealing from the sama, from the heaven, whatever that is coming down of rain or anything, Allah is aware of it. وَمَا يَعْرُجُ فِيهَا, and anything that is descending or going up to the heaven, Allah knows it. وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ, is with you. أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُ, wherever you are, with his knowledge, but his own person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is on top of the arsh. Wallahu bima ta'maluna basir, and that is why you can see the verse concluded by saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows whatever, he sees anything that you are doing, despite the fact that he stays on the top of arsh. Walaysa mana qawlihi, he said the meaning of wa huwa ma'akum aina ma kuntum is not annahu mukhtalitun bil khalqi, that Allah has mixed up with his creatures. He is there with his creatures physically anywhere they are. No. فَإِنَّ هَذَا لَا تُجِبُهُ اللُّغَّةُ, he said even the language does not accept this. Because if Allah says that وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ, he is not saying, that does not mean in the language of Arabic that Allah is with them physically. No. وَهُوَ خِلَافُ مَا أَجْمَعَ عَلَيْهِ سَلَفُ الْأُمَّةِ, and this is also contrary to the consensus, the ijma' of the Sahaba, the Tabi'un and the Tabi'ut Tabi'in. وَخِلَافُ مَا فَطَرَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ الْخَلْقَ, and it is also contrary to the nature in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala built people. But the Malan is saying that but al-qamaru ayatun min ayatillah, look at moon, is just a sign among the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Min asgari makhlukatihi, it is one of the smallest creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa huwa mawdu'un fis sama, and it is placed somewhere in the sky. Wa huwa ma'al musafir aina ma kana, but you can see it with the traveler anywhere the traveler moves to in the night. You will be seeing the moon, and the moon stays somewhere above there. So if one of the smallest creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have this sifat, then what of Allah the Almighty that created everything? وَهُوَ سُبْحَانَهُ فَوْقَ الْعَرْشِ, Allah the Almighty is on top of the arsh. رَقِيبٌ عَلَى خَلْقِهِ, and is watching, is conscious of his creatures. مُهَيْمِنٌ عَلَيْهِ, and is protecting them. مُطَّلِعٌ عَلَيْهِ, and is looking at them, watching them. إِلَى غَيْرِ ذَلِكَ مِمَّا أَنِ رُبُوبِيَّتِهِ, and anything that has to do with the lordship, is doing it for them, and he stays on the top of arsh. وَكُلُّ هَذَا الْكَلَامُ الَّذِي ذَكَرَهُ اللَّهُ, say all these verses that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned and we read, we have cited already, min annahu fawqa al-arshi, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is on top of the arshi, wa annahu ma'ana, and is also together with us. Haqqun, they are all truth. Allah hakikatihi, in reality they are all truths. Wala yahtaju ila tahrif, it doesn't need any interpolation or maybe changing the meaning from the real content to another thing. No. Walakin yusana ala zunun al-kaziba, but it should be protected from all what people are thinking of wishful about it. Now, if Allah says He's on the arsh, is there physically, but if He says that He is with you, the creatures, it means that He is with you with His knowledge and seeing. وَدَخَلَ فِي ذَلِكَ, and it has also entered into what we have mentioned, al-imanu, believing بِأَنَّهُ قَرِيبٌ مُجِيبٌ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is close by and is answering all our requests. Kama qala subhanahu, just as Allah the Almighty says, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي, whenever my servant asks you anni, about me, فَإِنِّي قَرِيب, I am close to them. وَقَالَ النَّبِيُّ صلى الله عليه وسلم, and the Prophet says to the companions, as we have cited earlier, that إِنَّ الَّذِي تَدَعُونَهُ, the person you are calling, أَقْرَبُ إِلَى أَحَدِكُم مِّنْ عُنُقِ رَاحِلَتِهِ, is closer to any one of you than the neck of his camel that he is riding. So don't shout and talk to him gently. وَمَا ذُكِرَ فِي الْكِتَابِ وَالسُّنَّةِ, and whatever that is mentioned in the Quran and the Ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, min qurbihi, about the nearness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to his creatures, wa ma'iyatihi, and togetherness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with his creatures. La yunafi ma dhukira min uluwihi, that does not negate anything that is mentioned that Allah is above his creatures on top of al-arsh, wa fawqiyatihi, and Allah is above everything. No. فَإِنَّهُ سُبْحَانَهُ, but Allah the Almighty, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ, nothing is like him. فِي جَمِيعِ نُعُوتِهِ, in all his sifats, nothing is like him. وَهُوَ عَلِيٌّ فِي دَنُوِّهِ, is so high in terms of his closeness to us. قَرِيبٌ فِي عُلُوِّهِ, and is so close to us in terms of his highness. وَمِنَ الْإِيمَانِ بِاللَّهِ وَكُتُبِهِ, it is also part of believing in Allah and the books that He sent. Al-Imanu, you have to believe also that al-Quran, that this Quran we are using, Kalamullah, is a statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is an assertion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Munazzilun, that He revealed to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ghayru makhlukin, it is not a creature of Allah. Because the people that started saying this came after the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, about 200 years before these people came out and started saying that Quran is created by Allah. Now, as a lay person or layman, who is not aware about the danger of this statement, you may be surprising that what is the difference between Quran being the creature of Allah or Quran being the kalam of Allah, the assertion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The difference is just like this. If you believe that Quran is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or is one of the creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have then believed indirectly that Quran is incompleted. Why? Because no creature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is completed. That is why this Jew, Jam ibn Safwan, and other people who claims to be Muslims fabricated this Aqidah, and they started spreading it during the time of Al-Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. And Al-Imam Ahmad fought them to the last extent. He said that minhu bada'a, Quran started from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is from Allah that Quran came as a word. Wa ilayhi ya'ud, and it is also returning to Allah. Wa anna Allah, and you should also believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takallama bi aqiqatan, Allah is the one that said everything that is in the Quran in reality. Wa anna hazal Quran, and you should also believe that this Quran, Allazi anzalahu ala Muhammadin, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, huwa kalamullahi haqiqatan, is the utterances of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in reality. La kalama ghayrihi, it is not an utterance of any person or any other one who is not Allah. You should believe it. Wala yajuz, for that reason it is not accepted. Itlaqul qawl bi'annahu hikaya, that it is not good that you as a person or as a Muslim will say that Quran is hikaya, is just a narration or a narrative, an kalamillah, from the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, it is not like that. Aw ibara, or it is just an explanation of the saying of all of the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, it is not hikaya, and it is not ibara. It is not hikaya, it is not a narrative of what Allah said or narration of what Allah said, and it is not ibara, it is not an explanation of what Allah said. No, as we see this Quran, it is exactly words spoken by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But إذا قرأه الناس, if people are reading or people read this Quran, أو كتبوه, or they wrote it في المصاحف in books, just as we can see today, لم يخرج بذلك an yakuna kalam Allah. That does not mean that it is not a word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No. Allah ta'ala hakikatan in reality. No, that does not take it out of the words of Allah. Allah was the one that spoke it. Final kalama, because assertion innama yudafu hakikatan ila man takallama lahu mubtadi'an. Any word, it is associated with somebody that said it originally from the beginning. La ila man qalahu muballigan. A statement cannot be associated with someone that reported it. Muballigan, the person that reported, or muaddiyan, that delivered the message that was given to him. So the Prophet Muhammad delivered the message of Allah, but the Quran is not his own words. It is the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You should believe this as a Muslim. Then وَقَدْ دَخَلَ أَيْضًا فِيمَا ذَكَرْنَاهُ. It has also entered of what we have discussed, min al-iman bihi, of believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wa bi kutubihi, and believing with the books of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He revealed to these messengers, wa bi rusulihi, and to believe in the messengers sent by Allah. Al-imanu, you have to believe also bi anna al-mu'minin, that the believers yarawnahu yawm al-qiyamah, will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the day of Qiyamah, iyanan bi absarihim, with their naked eyes, kama yarawna ash-shamsa sahwan, just as they look at, though they see ash-shams, as sun, sahwan, very clear, laysa dunahu sahab, there is no any cloud between them and saying the sun. That is how they will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the day of Qiyamah. وَكَمَا يَرَوْنَ الْقَمَرَ لَيْلَةَ الْبَدْرِ, and as they see the moon in the 13th, 14th, and the 15th day of any Islamic month, لَا يُضَامُونَ فِي رُؤْيَتِهِ, nothing will serve as the barrier between them and seeing them on that day. That is how, or those days, that is how they will see Allah in the day of Qiyamah. Yarawnahu subhanahu, they will see Allah the Almighty. Wahum fi arsatil qiyamah, when they are in the scene of the Qiyamah. Thumma yarawnahu ba'da dukhulil jannah, and they will also see Him after they have entered paradise. May Allah make us among these people. Kama sha Allah, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes, that is how and they will see Him. Wa min al-iman bil yawmil akhir, and it is also part of believing in the day of Qiyamah. Al-iman bi kulli ma khabara bihi Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You should also believe with what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us, mimma yakunu ba'da al-mauti, about what will happen after someone has died. For yuminuna, for that reason, Al-Sunnah al-Firqatun Najiyah believe befitnat al-qabr, that people will be persecuted in their graves after they have been buried. Wa bi'azab al-qabr, and some people will be punished in the qabr, in the grave. Wa na'imi, and some people will receive mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the qabr. And believe this, and this will make you a better Muslim. Fa'amal fitna, but about the persecution of the grave, fa inna nasa, indeed people, yuftanuna fi quburihim, will be persecuted in their graves, because that questioning itself is a kind of persecution. Whether you got it or you are not getting it, it is a persecution. For you call it a rajul, and they will say to someone, Ma rabbuk, who is your Lord? Wa ma dinuka, and what is your religion? Wa ma nabiyuka, and who is your prophet? For yuthabbitu Allahu alladhina amanu bil qawli thabit, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will affirm those who confirmed their faith in this world with a firm word, even in the qabr. Allah will give them the response that they will give to the angels. For your cool, and then for your cool mu'min, and a believer will say, Allah, my Lord is Allah, Allahu Rabbi, my Lord is Allah, wal Islamu dini, and Islam is my religion, wa Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam nabiyyi, and Muhammad is my messenger. Wa amal murtab, but someone who is having doubts, or who is not even a Muslim, for your cool, he will say, I la adri, I don't know. Sami'tu nas, he will be saying that I heard people yakuluna shayan saying something like that. For kultu, and I was also saying it. It's not because I believe in it. This is what the Murtab will be saying in the day of Qiyamah, sorry, in the Qabr. For you drobu mirzibatin, and then he will be beaten with an iron, min hadid, with an iron, for yasihu, and he will shout, soyhatan, a kind of shout, yasma'uha kulli shay'in, everything will hear it, illa al-insan, except human being, walau sami'aha, and if a human being will hear that is shouting, al-insan, if a human being will hear it, la sa'ika, definitely he will faint down. So all these are talking about the na'im of qabr and the azab of the qabr. Inshallah, we'll stop here. Anywhere we make mistake, may Allah forgive us. What we said correctly, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward us abundantly. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.